I got to say, game day started off great. The Red Wings were ready to go. It was opening night in Hockey Town. They had the red carpet roll out. Sider and Raymond were the permanent alternate captains. This team was ready to kick off its centennial season and prove everyone wrong. And then, Evan, what happened?
And then the game started.
Welcome to the Flying Octopus Podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Hey, it's Carter Bear, and you're listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast.
Welcome to episode 55 of the Flying Octopus Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Sabrin, joined by my co-host, Tony Wolak and Devin Little. Home opener today. Not the best of starts for the Detroit Red Wings. We came in all fired up this morning. Tony, you sent me that hype video. I was dropping my kid off at school, playing it through my Bluetooth on my car speakers, and just the nostalgia got me fired up and thinking about what these young kids could bring to this lineup. And oh man, I had the chills just watching that video. And our buddies from Hockey Town West sent me another video too, and I was just so geared up for it. And yeah, the game just didn't really go well. I'm just gonna start off with that. And it got ugly, and it got ugly fast. The Red Wings did open the scoring. Good to see Dylan Larkin rip one right there. Tied Thomas Holmstrom, 243 goals, and Holmstrom was there even in attendance to see it. But it kind of went downhill after that. Early on in the first period, Albert Johansson, Rasmussen, and Harmonic all got caught flat-footed in their own zone near the blue line. Zach Bolduc snuck by them, beat Gibson, tied it up at 1-1. Moments later, nice tic-tac-toe play involving Demidov, Alex Newhook to Oliver Kapanen, who scored his second goal in 2 nights. Made it 2-1 Montreal. And then the real backbreaker, as Mickey said, was Mike Matheson, ripping one in with about 7 seconds left in the first period, and that one was the killer. Red Wings were down 3-1 going into the second period. Early on, DeBrincat thought he had that one. I thought that was in. It sounded like it was in, looked like it was in from there, but when you saw the replay, you could tell it wasn't. And something that we see way too often with the Red Wings is after a really good scoring chance, it goes the other way, and somehow Montreal finds a way to score right away. And that was Zach Bolduc again, who tipped it in from a point shot from Alex Carrier. And then later in the second period, Slavkovsky took a Cole Caulfield rebound and buried it between John Gibson. John Gibson had a rough night. He had a really rough night, and he got pulled in the opener, and I'm not sure that's how you want the John Gibson era to start in Detroit. But Cam Talbot came in relief. There was no scoring in the third period. The Red Wings actually outshot the Canadiens 31-17, and actually, according to Tony, had more high danger chances than the Canadiens. But guys, it was a tough loss tonight, and what's coming up on the road too is not very hard to be optimistic after a performance like this. We got a young team. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. Tony, what are your takeaways from tonight?
Well, let's start in net and work our way out from there. Are we sure that was John Gibson in net, or was that Ville Husso in net? And we just got duped. It seemed like Gibson was not tracking the puck well whatsoever. And it's frustrating because he did have a good preseason. He had a good training camp. He had a good red and white game. He was dialed in. I don't know if it was first game jitters or just game speed for him that caught him off guard, but there was nothing about his game that I liked tonight. Like, even when Cam Talbot got put in later on in the game, he wasn't tested that much, but he was still locked in, tracked the puck very well, and was in position and did a great job. Now, obviously, you can't blame Gibson for the deflection off of Johansson, the fourth goal, but the others, like, to varying degrees, he could have had them. And the Red Wings need stability in net, because that's not something they've had in a long time. And they got the opposite of it in their home opener.
Watching Gibson, it made me think of something you said about Cam Talbot last season. Man, just make a save. Like you said, you can't fault him for all of them, but just at the end of the day, you wanted to see him make a save. He just couldn't do it.
Nope. Nope. And, it's fair to expect that Cam Talbot will be starting Saturday night against the Leafs. Hopefully, the Red Wings have a better game. But, I mean, look, obviously the score was terrible. The game sucked, flat out. I was putting my kid to bed, got a notification on my phone that the Red Wings got a power play goal. And it was still early in the game. So, like, oh, sweet, we're off and running. Let's go. New season. This is going to be different. By the time I got downstairs and turned the TV on, it was 2-1 Montreal. And I thought, what the hell happened? I see two bad defensive breakdowns and then Gibson not coming up to save the day. Now, it was not surprising to see the coaching staff change up the defensive pairs. Albert Johansson and Travis Hamonic had an awful game together. And I would suspect that one of them will come out in favor of Jacob Bernard-Docker in Toronto. If I'm betting on that, I'm betting it's Hamonic that comes out, but we'll see. Defensively, there were two major gaffes in the first period for the first two goals. The third goal, not really a defensive issue. Fourth goal was a fluke deflection. And then the fifth goal, you had three players standing around and a goalie not knowing where the puck was. So, like, all things considered, if the Red Wings got just decent goaltending, the game would have been much different because they actually didn't give up very much. Like Evan said from the top, the Red Wings gave up one single high danger chance at 5-on-5. One. That's it. The whole game at 5-on-5. One high danger chance against. That's really, really good. Obviously, there's the aspect of the Canadiens were up, so they weren't pressing as much and forcing the issue. Sure, I'll give you that. But when you give up one single high danger chance against, like, sure, I'll take that win. That's fine. But you need all facets of the game to be good to win.
I think the biggest thing for me, just as was mentioned several times throughout the broadcast, Montreal played the night prior against the Maple Leafs. They lost 2-5. Usually when you're playing a team that has played the night prior, you're expecting them to come out with some jump. They got that first game out of the season out of the way early, still have their game legs under them, and then you expect them to taper off probably in the second half of the game somewhere. And the Red Wings never really gave themselves an opportunity to capitalize that and to make that happen because, by the time the second half of the game came, they were already down 4-1, 5, like the game's basically already out of reach. So when you're expecting them to be able to like really push, they didn't. It basically amounts to nothing. And Evan, like you said, and like Mickey Redmond said, that third goal to me was the backbreaker. Like I even after the second goal, I still thought that they looked like preseason Red Wings. They had a certain level of ferocity with their play. They were really attacking the puck. Obviously, a couple players still weren't looking that great, but generally speaking, I thought they still looked really good. And then that third goal happened, and they just never recovered. They never looked the same. Even in that second period, it's like they lost a gear. And then eventually John Gibson's chased, and the third period was fine, but like it ultimately just game was out of reach, basically, and you could kind of tell. This was a big time missed opportunity for the Red Wings, I think. Obviously, vibes were at an all-time high. 3 rookies in the lineup, wearing that beautiful Centennial jersey. Opening night's always a magical night, and they just kind of blew it. There's a lot of different things you can kind of point your finger at. I agree with everything you said, Tony. Like I said, you want your goalie to be a stabilizing force back there. You want him to be kind of an eraser, and Gibson wasn't that. Just kind of point blank. I don't fault him for the loss in any way, but I certainly don't. I certainly think he could have done more to help his team than what he did, and he knows that. He's a real good veteran goaltender. He knows that he could have been better today. But all in all, overall theme of how I'm feeling after this game is it was a missed opportunity to really cash in on just the energy that was surrounding this team coming in off of the last week of preseason, really. And now, one game in the books, and now everyone's talking about the same old stuff. This team doesn't have it. This team's still not good enough. Eisenman doesn't know what he's doing, blah, blah, blah. And I know a lot of that is just kind of people getting carried away like they do, but it would just be a whole different vibe if they would have played if they were playing like the team that was playing in their home opener and not the team that had played the night prior.
Yeah, and when the Atlantic Division itself is an absolute gauntlet, you need to bank points whenever you can. And you're right, it was a missed opportunity. Let's go back to that third goal real quick because the sequence that led to that, Montreal iced the puck with 40 seconds left, and they had been in their zone for a little bit. I don't know why, but Rasmussen's line came out. And immediately when they went to the draw, I was like, no. It's not like Dylan Larkin's line was not just out. Put them out. It's 40 seconds left in the period. Let them finish it out. You're in the offensive zone playing against a tired opponent. Oh, like, that's like, what the hell? And then he loses the draw. They break the puck out of the zone. And before you know it, it's in the back of the Red Wings net. And I'm just sitting there like, what just happened? I cannot believe that just happened. And I think that's one of those things that hopefully the coaching staff just takes that as a lesson right there, being like, we cannot pass up opportunities, because they just kept rolling the lines. And even though it was a prime opportunity to score and potentially tie the game up at that point, but they kept rolling lines, and you all saw what happened. Now, as frustrating as it was just one game. If the Red Wings beat Toronto on Saturday night, it's going to be jubilation in Hockey Town. Like, let's be honest. But obviously, you need a better 360 sort of like contribution from this team. You had some players who look great. Alex DeBrincat, probably the best player in the Red Wings lineup Thursday night. Seider played pretty well. But there were players like throughout the lineup that just did not have their game. And like, I'll give credit where credit's due. Raymond was trying to make things happen. I thought Simon Edvinsson, while he took a tough penalty, he had a generally decent game in the defensive zone. Andrew Kopp had a pretty good game too. I thought Michael Brandt-Nygaard forced the issue pretty well. But then you have other players who are just flat out invisible. I'll give Mason Appleton some credit. He was throwing his body around. He was creating. Like, I'll give him credit there for sure. In addition to the players who were invisible, there were others who just they didn't show out to the best of their abilities. Understandably, Axel Sandin-Pellikka in his first game played a little passive. That's not his style, though. I want to see him be a little more aggressive in the offensive zone against Toronto. You could see Emmett Finney deferring to Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond quite a bit. Again, first NHL game, probably a little nervous. Give it to the guys who he knows who can create. I get it. But when he's on, his motor's running, he's winning battles, he's retrieving pucks. He's, forcing the issue, and that wasn't quite apparent. There were certainly some quality plays, but he wasn't relying on his bread and butter. Now, again, first game, I get it, but these are things I want to see just improve a little bit going into game 2. Have Finney play more aggressive, just in general. Have Axel Sandin-Pellikka play more aggressive in the offensive zone. Have the full lineup contribute. Hopefully the Red Wings can get a win with that playing out.
You guys know me. I never overreact, and that was definitely not me. Someone stole my phone and texted you guys Gavin McKenna incoming. That was definitely not me. You got to be worried about John Gibson. I know it's only one start, but that was brutal. 5 goals on 13 shots and getting pulled in your Red Wings debut when the narrative all summer has been goaltending's improved. But let's not take anything away from Montreal. They have a high-powered offense, and they've got some really good quality players. That tic-tac-toe goal on Kapanen's goal that made it 2-1 was pretty nasty, from Demidov to Newhook to back to Kapanen. They're an offensive juggernaut, and I expect them to be one of the top teams in the East this season. I really do. They're young, but they have a little more experience than our team. Yeah, I'm not sure I like that third pairing on defense. -3 for Johansson and Hamonic tonight was not pretty. And for Axel Sandin-Pellikka, I mean, they threw him right into the wolves. He played almost as much as Seider did tonight. He had 22:34 to 22:51 for Seider. Edvinsson led the team at 23:14, which isn't much more. So they're really seems like they're going to go all in on him, especially on the second pair. So, you can't really call out the kids in their first game. You can't imagine the nerves. Everyone had their families in town. By the way, I love Michael Nygaard's nickname now, Taxi, which I learned like last week, but they reminded you on the telecast today that his dad used to drive him to practice in the taxi. That's great. that's a cool nickname. I kind of liked what I saw of him. You were right, Tony. He was forcing the issue there in the game. But again, man, I see a season of growing pains. And I know you're going to give it to me for overreacting over game one, but this could be a season of, trying to get these young kids incorporated with these veterans. And it's going to take some time. And I still am in belief of that's why this centennial season is kind of, and I know we talked about this offline, Tony, but it's going to be a year where there's going to be some tough nights. And I honestly believe that. And I think the Red Wings are trying to, and you're saying from a business standpoint, and yes, that's true as well. But I also think there's going to be some things that the Red Wings brought out to kind of ease the pain of what could be a difficult season. The Red Wings aren't far off, but they still have to, these kids still have to have NHL experience. Bringing 3 rookies into an opening night lineup is going to make things tough. You're already young with Casper. You're already young with Evanson, Soderblom. You got 3 young kids now. I mean, that's 6 kids in the, between 20 years old and 24 years old almost. Sider's still 24. It's going to be a young team. There's going to be some bumps along the way as they continue to grow and learn together. So again, it was a rough one tonight. It was kind of a buzzkill after everything we saw today, all the hype videos, all the texts back and forth between each other. Kind of a downer, guys. I'm not really sure how to feel on this one. Devin, I cheer me up, man, the best you can.
I got nothing for you, man. It was a 5-1 loss. No, man, if I'm trying to be the resident optimist here, you're right. It's a very young, I mean, half the team would still qualify to be on their parents' insurance here in the States. So like, it's a very young team. And like you said, with that will come growing pains. But also with that in mind, this is where you want the team to be. This is why you rebuild. This is why we were all so excited a week ago. You're seeing the fruits of the rebuild finally. Not every prospect, not every first round prospect is going to be Sidney Crosby when they hit the NHL for the first time. More often than not, it's an up and down thing. Even to kind of give an even more realistic expectation, they're not all going to be Lucas Raymond for that. So you're going to have to take the bad nights with the good nights. Hopefully there are more good nights than there are bad nights. I think there will be, but that's not to say that nights like this aren't going to be common. It's even just looking outside of what's going on in Detroit, the Atlantic Division's tough. Like you said a little bit ago, Tony, it's a gauntlet. Every night you're playing an Atlantic Division foe, you're pretty much playing a team that expects to make the playoffs on some level. So it's just tough. And then you look outside of that too. There's not a lot of easy wins in this league right now. So if you have a team that's kind of expected to have a little bit of a learning curve, you're already setting yourself up to have some losses along the way. So you can't get too low off of one loss, even though this one was definitely a gut punch and definitely kind of took the wind out of everyone's sails. There's still plenty of good nights ahead. And I'm not saying the Red Wings are definitely going to make the playoffs this year, but there's enough reason for optimism. There's enough talent. We were talking about this over the last few weeks. Like there's plenty of reason to still be excited about this team. And this one night does not ruin any of that. And theoretically, as these young guys we're referring to get more experience, whether they're Emmett Finney, whether they're Michael Brandt-Signigaard, whether they're Marco Casper, theoretically, they're going to get better and better with that experience. So the team you're seeing on night 1 here is not necessarily going to be the team you're seeing on night 60. So again, this loss sucks. There's no way around that, but it's not the end of the season.
Looking forward to the Toronto game on Saturday, what does this team need to do to get back on track? I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is just like a mental reset. If we're being honest, like that game sucked. Let's throw it out the window. The resiliency of this team is already being tested. And that's something that Todd McClellan wanted to work on, just the mental strength to not get down and be able to pick themselves up and continue pushing forward. We're already seeing that after game 1. Now, they can go out and be nervous that they're going to lose again, and then the pressure's going to be on, blah, blah, blah. That's the wrong mental makeup to have. What you want to see is, no. We're better than that, and we're going to show you we're better than that. That's the first thing that I need to see is just the overall attitude going into the game and being sustained throughout the game. On top of that, obviously, better goaltending, presumably Cam Talbot is starting on Saturday. Hopefully he can keep to 3 or less, give the Red Wings a chance. As for their offense, yeah, there needs to be more at 5-on-5. Like, sure, the scoring chances, the high danger chances for at 5-on-5, if you're looking at that, they are going to greatly favor the Red Wings just because they had to press pretty much the entire game. That's just the reality of it. If Montreal wasn't ahead, it would be a lot more balanced. Now, I do want to see more out of the Larkin line in this next game. They had some good looks, don't get me wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, they didn't get too many good quality scoring chances. Now, Andrew Kopp's line surprisingly did. Even Patrick Kane, Marco Kasper, Alex DeBrincat got a lot of great looks. If the Red Wings can have their top line and depth show up like they're supposed to, they're going to be in great shape. And on top of that, game one's out of the way. You're not going to be bobbling the puck as much. You're going to be a little bit more crisp with your passing. You're going to be in sync a little bit more with regular season hockey instead of going in and gripping the stick too hard. Because you can definitely see that in the first game with not crisp passes, overshooting the play, not knowing what to do, and just flinging it away. They weren't settled, that's for sure. And hopefully against Toronto, they come in and just, like Todd McClellan said, just play fucking hockey. That's it.
Yeah, poor Steve Yzerman got interviewed right after that Matheson goal up in the booth in the first intermission. And the first question he was asked was about the kids making the team, and I'm sure that's not a moment he wanted to be interviewed at. So, yeah, it was a rough night, and man, it was dead quiet there. Things aren't going to get any easier, as we've talked about this murderer's row that the Red Wings are going to face to start the season. Saturday, they're going to host Toronto. Monday, back to Toronto, where they will face the Leafs. And then Wednesday, they're going to host the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. So hopefully the things can pick up quickly here. Otherwise, you could get off to a pretty ugly start. Those 3 games, we'll be back next week to recap those. A quick reminder where you can find us. Check us out on YouTube at The Flying Octopod. Follow us on Twitter at Flying Octopod. And you can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a note, drop us a line, rip on our clothing, whatever you want to do. I would love to hear some feedback. And hey, we still got the Tigers tomorrow.
Tigers.
I can't take much more heartbreak. So, and let's not forget the Lions are ranked number 1 in the power ranking. So it's not all doom and gloom in Detroit. Tomorrow is Skubal Day, and that could really make amends for this monstrosity that happened tonight. So we'll be back next week to recap 3 games. Thanks for listening to episode 55 of the Flying Octopus Podcast, the Keith Primo, Nicholas Cronwall, Larry Murphy edition. We will see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.